Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast. My name is Vincent Van Patten,
And I'm Gregory Russell Benedict.
and this is a podcast about what is possible when you have the courage to follow your dreams. Grego, what's happening, my brother? We are back. This is episode number 81, and I feel like I've been gone for far too long, but we're back, man, and I'm excited.
You have been gone, and I'm so grateful to be back on the air with you. You have been out of my life for too long. You told me that you lost your phone, but I know it was really just you not wanting to talk to me.
Did you really believe that? Absolutely not. I found my phone. It's never been better. And we're recording now. So we're going to be posting these bad boys on YouTube. So check it out if you want to see these two ugly mugs live and not live, but you get the picture. So today, my friend, I am back in Los Angeles. I'm in the dojo at my parents' house because I'm home for a little bit, and then I'm embarking again on another journey. And I am grateful to be here, spend some time with the family and the friends. You never know who's going to come and pop their head in, but we're going to give this a go.
We will give it a go, and I'm so excited.
There's my dad. He's gardening, recording the podcast. Perfect. Wow, that was not planned. That was hilarious. All right.
So good. So where, besides getting a scoop on what you're up to in September and where you're going, where are we headed today with today's episode?
Yeah, buddy. I think I wanted to. So we both have been reading these philosophical books. I'm reading The Heart of Emerson's Journals, which is Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the transcendentalists of the 1800s. And the only thing I knew about him is he's kind of the inspiration for Henry David Thoreau. He's a naturalist, so he just wrote about nature and just the beauty of nature. And that's kind of what this whole like romantic transcendentalists movement in the 1800s was all about, like getting back to nature, kind of finding God in nature and just the physical world, and this kind of romantic idea of America kind of in the 1800s. It's blooming into this, nobody really knows what it is, but it's kind of becoming a beast of its own. And I can't talk too much on this because I don't really know, but that's the idea that I think is relatively on point. So Emerson he's an absolute legend. He was the owner of Walden Pond, which Thoreau went to and wrote the great book Walden. And he was a preacher, but just from the journals, like his stuff about religion is so like non-religious. It's like all about like pretty much you are the God, like everything is within you, and don't just like subscribe to in the 1800s. There was a time of there were so many different sects of like religion, like Unitarianism and Calvinism, and just like everybody was kind of breaking apart and lots of conflict in that regard. And he was like, write your own Bible. Like this was one of my favorite quotes from the book. It's just like, take these things that you read and these ideas, and that's what I really think religion is too. It's like, it's whatever it means to you. It's finding God in your own ways. And whatever God means to you. Basically, I'm rambling on here, but so I'm reading Emerson's journal, and I got a few points I want to hone in on there. But so what are you reading?
I love it. I think the question that comes to mind is, what are you taking away from Emerson in like a practical daily sense that we can implement? And I'll share what I'm reading in a little bit, but yeah, what is the clay you're walking away with that you're molding into your daily life?
Yeah. So like what I wanted to talk about doesn't really have to do with what I just talked about. So here's a pretty big quote, but I kind of guess, and I'll explain the idea behind it and how it relates to Tel Aviv and what have you. So he says, every cultivated man observes in his past years intervals of mentality and is accustomed to consider the present state of his mind as the result rather of many periods of singular intenseness of thought and feeling than of a perpetual and equable expansion. Corn grows by jumps. The ordinary growth of mind, especially till the old age of man, depends on ailment procured from without. But this ailment, from which we search the bosoms of other men, or their books, or the face of external nature, will be got in larger or less amounts according to circumstances quite as often without as within our control. So I'll just stop there and debrief it. So basically it's like life happens in moments of intensity where you're working really hard for like a month, 6 months, a year. And then there's moments of downtime as well. And that just hit home with me because when I was in Tel Aviv, for like the last 2 weeks of my trip, 3.5 months abroad, I was just I didn't want to be like, just kind of working on the computer every day. And we talked about this because we're launching the podcast and trying to take it to the next level. But I really just wanted to be there and enjoy it and kind of soak in the experience. My phone and my wallet were stolen. So I was like, just kind of scrambling. And I still have my computer and like my camera, but I just wanted to enjoy being there. And so pretty much like I read this in Italy before that, and it told me just to take the pressure off. And I listened to your conversation with Wolf on the Daydream podcast, and you guys were talking about this, like, the differences between pretty much that life is, do be. That's like I forget what it was, but there's these moments of doing and there's these moments of just being. And I mean, we've talked about this a lot in kind of different ways, but it's okay to have those moments of just being in existence. And, now I feel like I'm back now and I could relax a little bit and, start writing a lot and get back to the podcast and everything. But something I wanted to elucidate.
Thank you. I feel enlightened, especially that part about other men's bosoms. Still
Yeah.
chewing on that.
That's really
But
why I chose the quote. I love that part.
so good. It just really, resonated. But what I'm taking from that is something that Naval Ravikant talks about. He says, we as humans are designed to be like lions, not ants, where a lion will go really hard in the paint and go kill a gazelle and hunt it down, and then it eats the gazelle or whatever, and it just takes a nap. It rests. So it's short periods of intense action followed by long periods of unstructured rest. Whereas an ant is just continuously moving all the time, building at a slow pace. And I resonate a lot more with the go out and do the thing, climb the mountain and then take a nap. It feels much more sustainable than constantly being on. I mean, that feels like a recipe for burnout and madness, is constantly being at 80% forever, whereas being at like 100% for a few hours and then really toning it back.
For sure. And I think like it's even more than just like work, and it's just kind of like the seasons of life, something that has kind of resonated with me in the last few years of, we're changing, we're growing. I stopped kind of reading for the first stint of my trip abroad just because I was doing other things. I was out, I was exploring, and at times I was like I should be reading so much more. I should be on my strict schedule of like reading and writing. But this kind of like what we talked about a couple of days ago of just, and this is from the Seneca book that you're reading, of like reading really good, just the classics. Like there's such good classics out there already that, if you're a reader, you could get kind of inundated by all the new books that are always coming out and the self-help books, and they're glitzy and you want to read them, and they, that you think they're going to change your life. And a lot of times they are great, but I'm kind of excited to kind of focus in on just reading some of the classics, like the stories of humanity and life, and just, that those I feel tell more about human beings and what it means to be human, and can actually help you more than like the self-help books. I don't know if that's going to resonate with everybody because not everybody loves the classics, but something to think about. Like a good fiction story can really teach you a lot, and just kind of taking the pressure off of like having to be on that strict schedule again and being back and just hitting everything hard, just enjoying this whole process, growing and becoming something new little by little, and kind of feeling out what you like and what is speaking to you.
Yeah. And I think you hit it perfectly, but I'll just reiterate, Seneca emphasizes the importance of spending time reading writers whose genius is unquestionable. So it's reading and rereading the books that have been around for hundreds of years, that have been time tested to have wisdom, instead of, you're saying, yeah, like instead of, as you're saying, the sexy, glamorous new self-help book, which, man, if I had $1 for every new self-help book that I'm like, oh, this is going to be the one, and then I
Yeah,
read it and I just feel like bamboozled, oh, I'd be a wealthy man. But to this point of taking the pressure off and going with the ebb and flow of life, what's on my mind is, I was on a call earlier and something came up, a topic came up, something to aim at came up that I haven't thought about in so long. And it kind of slapped me in the face. And it is fun. Like, we were talking about Men and Women of Discomfort, this company I'm a part of. And the founder was like, yeah, like our aim should be to make hard things, to make doing hard things fun. And that should be the filter. Like, we don't do things unless they're fun. Like, yeah, they're going to be hard. Yeah, they're going to be uncomfortable, but they need to be fun. And that was just like the most refreshing thing I've heard in a while, that, yeah, life is hard. There's going to be a lot of stuff you don't want to do, but it doesn't mean it can't be fun. And just almost remembering that that is a huge part of life. I don't know. I just, maybe this doesn't resonate for anyone else but me, but it really felt like a refreshing drink of water, just remembering that we are here to play.
for sure, man. And that's what I loved about the episode with Wolf is, and it honestly hit home with me, just everything that we're doing. Like, if we're not getting some sort of enjoyment, I mean, even some sort of sick enjoyment of like, this is hard, but like, I'm doing something weird and strange, and there's some sort of abnormality to it. And like, I'm grinding, but I'm enjoying it. Or like, if we're not enjoying, I mean, it was pretty funny listening to the episode. I tried to cancel New Year's.
Oh yeah. You haven't heard that story?
Oh, I have, but when you just hearing you say it to somebody else, I was like, because I thought about myself. I'm like, there are times when, the week goes great. And this was kind of in the COVID days when I was just writing the book, and like every day was just pretty much a grind of that writing and just, sticking to this intense schedule. And then like Friday night would come along, everything was done, but I was like, what, is it really for? Like, you're checking all the boxes, everything seems great, it's clean, but there's got to be just this element of, you know, of sloppiness. I don't know if that's the right word, but like, of just getting out of your own box and just kind of, yeah, making things joyful. And really ask yourself, yeah, is it like, am I expressing just my true, most joyful self in whatever it is that you're doing, and what you are getting out of it? I mean, you can obviously stick to a schedule, and that is what gives you joy, and you're having a fun time with it. But it made me think.
Yeah. Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, I love it too much to think last night.
Don't want Vinny thinking again.
Night. But yeah, it's the playfulness is so important, and just in everything that we're doing. Like, recently being home, I had that slight melancholy of just, even though I know that things are gonna be changing, there's kind of no getting around it. Like, just this huge change, and I just had this crazy journey, and now I'm back to kind of familiar, and I'm, extremely grateful for it. But it was a little sad for that chapter to close. But I'm like, what? Like, there's so much good to be had here. Like, just to be in this moment, to be with my family, do whatever it takes to enjoy it, make it playful, have fun, don't take it so seriously.
Yeah. And I am incredibly blessed to have a brain or mental composition that's really optimistic. Like, it is pretty hard for me to be sad. And if I am sad, I feel like I always click into a slightly more optimistic mindset pretty quickly.
Mhm.
But what I imagine depression to be like is where nothing is fun anymore, or nothing seems like it could be fun. From
Yeah,
what I've read about it and people I've talked to, it's just that you don't want to get out of bed. There's like nothing to look forward to. And realizing that life is supposed to have things to look forward to has just been really freeing for me recently.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting quote. which is from Emerson's journals. And if a man carefully examines his thoughts, he will be surprised to find how much he lives in the future. His well-being is always ahead. Such a creature is probably immortal.
Mm.
But you have to have things to look forward to. That's, I mean, it's got to be some sort of balance there, but it's hard to find the balance. Like for me, just to enjoy this time as much as possible. Like I was just talking to you, I'm like, I can't believe the next thing that's going to happen. Full disclosure, I'm going to Japan in September and I'm looking forward to it. But you're like, but like August and this next month is going to be incredible. And just like, I'm like, oh yeah, that is very true. Just to be able like, how to find just that, even if things aren't, going exactly as planned, how to find just that grounding and playfulness where you are, wherever it is.
Yeah. And finding joy or happiness or fulfillment or even pain in the present moment and just fully being with that, whatever that emotion is. I think there's a lot of gold in sitting fully in whatever you're experiencing instead of wishing you were somewhere else, wishing it was 3 hours from now so you could be done with it.
Yeah,
Just being in it.
for sure. Get down and dirty in it.
Being in it. Well, here's a lesson that I learned yesterday that I want to share. Most of my life up until now, up until like 2 years ago, has been lived by brute force in the sense of just deciding I want to do something and then working really hard to get it and just putting my head down and kind of grinding it out. And what I realized recently, I've been having a lot of struggle or challenge with figuring out like how I want to go about getting new coaching clients and business development, because some of the things that the experts, and I'm using air quotes, tell you to do just feel so gross and wrong to me. Just
Yeah.
like, just send 100 DMs a day and cold outreach to people on LinkedIn. And what I'm realizing is that there's that saying, the end justifies the means. So it's like, if the end goal works, then do whatever you have to do to get there. But what
Right.
I'm realizing is I feel like it's what you do to get there that really matters. It's if you're enjoying that process and if that process feels like it's in alignment with your values. And what I'm coming up against is a lot of the things that the experts tell you to do don't feel authentic or genuine to me, which is, those are two of my biggest values.
Mm-hmm.
So having the courage and the confidence in myself to say, just because it worked for someone else, it's not going to work for me. And sitting back and having the patience to figure out what is going to work for me, what is going to be my way of doing it that feels right. And how this is related to what I started with is, for most of my life, I had no emotional intelligence, especially when it came to myself. Like my method of dealing with my emotions in high school and most of college was literally just like shove it down and don't look at it, like everything's fine. And
Plow hole.
exactly. And now that I'm at this point in my life where I can somewhat feel if something's in alignment or out of alignment with me, it's challenging. It's a new skill to actually listen to that voice, because the old voice, the old inner critic is like, I don't care how you feel about it. We're just going to do the thing. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, okay, if it feels bad, let's not do the thing. And it's kind of, I don't know if this is making sense, but it's like the old voice just yelling at me to do something, and the new knowing it's like, okay, this might not be the right thing. Let's not do it. Does that
Yeah,
make any sense?
it does. It does. I think what I'm hearing is sometimes in the past, to get to a goal, you would have to tell yourself, just kind of break through the wall, use brute force because the means will justify the route to get there. And if it's worked for other people, it's time tested, it's got to work for you. How you're changing is that there's got to be a way that works for everybody, and you're learning how to understand the path that will be right for you based on how you feel, and listen to that more acutely.
That was beautiful. That was very nicely done. I feel very seen and heard. And I think the thing I would add to it is, me, like I'm all about overcoming your resistance. And we love The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. resistance, which is like that fear that's keeping you staying where you're at, resistance, and then actually the inner knowing that that's not right for me. They're both so similar that sometimes it's hard to distinguish. Am I not doing this thing because it's uncomfortable and I'm scared? Or am I not doing this thing because it doesn't feel genuine to who I am?
For sure. Like an example could be just Eileen she told a story, my stepmom, who had on the show episode number, I think it was like 58 or something, random. But she said she like got an award recently for like something good, some sort of Hungry Children Foundation, honestly. And she like didn't want to give a speech because she's like terrified of public speaking, but she said, I can't let Vinny and Greg down.
Wow.
About it, and she did it and overcame the fear.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Tell her to come to Toastmasters.
Yeah, honestly, she like looked into the like LA Toastmasters and stuff. Didn't do it, but did the speech.
Yeah.
And basically with like a speech, it's like, I know, I mean, obviously there are people, but everyone gets just that slight nerve of like getting up in front of people and giving a speech, obviously in different intensities, but will this thing be good for me regardless of how I feel, and I have to just get through this? Or is it just not part of who I am and I can't give it any sort of due? And that is definitely hard to distinguish. How do you think we go about parsing the two?
That's a great question. And like, obviously in that instance, that's resistance getting in the way. Like most of the times giving a speech, especially if it's for an award, is a positive thing. And that's, I feel like that one's easy to tell. It's when like you honestly don't know if the reason you don't want to reach out to a bunch of people on LinkedIn is because you are scared of rejection, or it doesn't feel good, or it's just, for me, and then this is the story I'm telling myself, it may be true or false, but like I hate getting random LinkedIn messages from people who are like, I see you're a podcaster and I help podcasters grow their business, like stuff like that. And so even when I do a very authentic message on LinkedIn, like if the person doesn't know me, it just, I don't know, for some reason doesn't feel good to me. And I talk to my friends who are in sales and they're like, oh my God, you had 5 people out of 100 get back to you. That's a great ratio. And I'm just like, that's horrendous. Like I'm so sad right now. Like this is not sustainable for me. Yeah. Even if that's good by industry standards, like this is not sustainable for me and my mental health. So, so how do we determine whether it's resistance or whether it's genuine, this isn't right for me? My answer would be silence and just sitting with it and meditating on it. I think you'll know.
This brings up an interesting, just to kind of check, because I mean, me and you both just aren't salesmen. It's there's valuable skills there, but that's why we changed careers and everything, and it's not where our passions lie, I'd say. But just as far as like, going for a significant other, I kind of had this big realization, and we talked about that. I just, I don't like picking up girls at a bar, or like not picking. I mean, I don't like trying to compete with other guys and like this pecking order and like try to be the coolest. It just rubs me the wrong way. And someone might view that as like, you have to get over that. If you want to get the hottest girl, you have to be the most charismatic and the one that's willing to go for it. But I've had like the best relationship, or the best just experiences and relationships when like I've been my most authentic self, and I've met girls like surfing or just in like at the beach or at a pumpkin patch, given the time of year. That's from Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
But just like, I mean, I figured out kind of my own way. It's a way that actually resonates with me instead of like having to bust through this wall. And also like just this like time frame of like at a bar or whatever, you have to be like within moments, you have to grab their attention. You have to do all these things instead of like, I'd rather get to know somebody or have somebody get to know me in like an authentic way where you could actually let go of the pressure of like having to perform and could actually just be yourself. I think that kind of gets back to the topic at hand.
Yes. And that's a perfect example. It's a perfect example of just pushing your way through it and, gritting your teeth and white knuckling it in that scenario wouldn't be good for us, because picking up chicks at a bar is kind of antithetical to what we enjoy, which is, long conversations, long walks on the beach, dimly lit rooms, with some aged mahogany and a glass of whiskey. Yeah.
That's right. We've had one or two of those nights, haven't we, buddy?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's such a good example. It's like, even if we make ourselves do the thing that's not in alignment with who we want to be. And I think that's just a perfect example.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And it's like, just to speak on that too, it's not like there isn't some value to that, or like we won't, if we're being our most authentic self and we're at a bar, and that will shine through just because we're being playful and having fun and like aren't trying to beat out other guys and play the game. And that could kind of apply to other areas of life. Maybe there are things you have to do and you could add your own kind of touch to them. And so maybe for you, like, reaching out to these people, it feels slimy and weird, but I mean, I guess just the premise of it is not what we want to do, but maybe there is some way to kind of just make it your own. And yeah.
That just reminds me of, it's always about how we relate to the thing. The thing, and this is like Stoicism 101, is that events happen, things happen in life. They're neither good nor bad, yet it's how we interpret it. It's how we relate to the thing that makes it good or bad in our own life. And the classic example is an insult or a rumor can really offend one person and not offend the other. It's just words. But if you, take those personally and get worked up, then it's going to piss you off. But like, if a stranger just walked up to me on the street and was like, "You're fat and ugly," I'd probably be like, "All right." I wouldn't take it personally.
Don't you think I didn't see your Instagram post about, you tell them your your story about like expecting the best out of people's intentions instead of like assuming the worst.
Yes.
That relates. Yeah.
Yeah. The principle of charity. That's what we're talking about here.
Precisely.
Yeah. The principle of charity is super interesting. It's essentially that you should go through life assuming that people have good intentions, and you should give people the benefit of the doubt. Is that the saying? Benefit of the doubt. Yeah. The opposite of that would to give people the least generous interpretation. So if you say something to me, I automatically assume it's because you hate me and you're being mean. And honestly, like, your expectations of people influence their actions so much. I heard this the other day. I've heard it lots of times, but we give subtle signals to other people on how to treat us. And it's just the vibes we're giving off and the expectations of others. If you go into the world assuming that everyone is mean and going to rob you and just be terrible like that, you're probably going to find that.
Yeah.
First, if you go into the world thinking that life is great and people are lovely, you're going to have a good experience.
Absolutely. I think it was an Einstein quote. It's like, one decision we have to make or something. The universe is either for us or against us. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a strange and tough time that we're living in. I'm just thinking about how to kind of handle it all. Like, I mean, I'm not very affected in my personal life, but like it's affecting all of us in some way. Just the tumultuous age, countries are like Portugal's like on fire, and it just, I don't know what to make of it all. But I think it's like, I mean, it's just such big ideas at large that making the world seem like it's ending, but kind of bringing it back down to like just the personal and just kind of being good. And I mean, if the world's gonna end, you might as well be enjoying this time. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's an interesting, how much there are, like, everything is what we make of it. Like, times are crazy, but how do we react to these circumstances? How do we continue being our best self and like just striving to be decent people? And that's just what we need.
It's what we need. We need more good people.
Trying, buddy. What else we got?
we got more from Seneca, and this is from Letters from a Stoic. And
Beautiful.
Letters from a Stoic, it's one of the most popular, iconic Stoic texts, and it is letters from Seneca to his friend Lucilius, and they're amazing. Each one is like 3 or 4 pages in this little book I'm reading, and one of the things I love most is that Seneca talks about learning for the sake of learning is selfish. Learning for the sake of teaching someone else is amazing. And that's what you should do. And so he ends every letter by saying, all right, Lucilius, here's your daily allowance. Here's what I owe you. Here's what I learned today. And there's just like little things that are so good. But in this letter, this is letter number 5. This one found me at the right time. And he says, let our aim be a way of life, not diametrically opposed to, but better than that of the mob. Otherwise, we shall repel, and alienate the very people whose reform we desire. We shall make them, moreover, reluctant to imitate us in anything, for fear they may have to imitate us in everything. And what this means to me has to do with this other quote. Actually, I think I just read the wrong quote. Let me read this other one. That one will tie in. That one will tie in, but the one I was actually looking for is right here.
Beautiful.
One's life should be a compromise between the ideal and the popular morality. People should admire our way of life, but they should, at the same time, find it understandable. There we go. That's what I was looking for, because
Wow.
in my past, when I was trying to cancel New Year's as a holiday,
It's just
I was
cancel New Year's phase, age,
cancel New
chapter.
Year's. It's a dark chapter. I was aiming at an impossibly high
Grinch.
standard. I was trying to be the Grinch. Cancel Christmas, cancel New Year's.
Oh my God.
No one's celebrating Hanukkah. I was literally trying to become viceless. Like I wanted to be a monk who had no vices, who was just the best version of myself. And yeah, there's a lot of positivity in that, but there's also a lot of not enoughness and feeling like I needed to take all these things out of my life to be enough. And this quote really hit me because it's saying that your life should be a compromise between the ideal and the popular morality. You can't, according to Seneca, go out and aim at the very highest thing and only do that because you're going to be alone. Like no one will understand what you're doing. You won't have any friends. People will think you're crazy. And so find a compromise, right? Like have a huge aim that you're aiming at and hold yourself to a high standard, but also do the popular things sometimes. And actually this brings up something quite interesting, is that after going 2 years sober and we went out and we had a couple wild nights together, I remember sitting at breakfast one day and being a bit hungover with you. And it was this weird feeling of like, this is such a common human experience. And I haven't had it for 2 years. And it almost feels good to know that there's other people at this restaurant right now that are hungover and we're like in this shared suffering. And yeah, it's like you can't be so perfect that no one relates. It's just very alienating.
Oh man, I love that. I got so much to say on it. Yes. I think like I loved what you said in the wolf conversation. The wolf conversation. If you don't know what that is, Greg lived for 3 weeks in a cave with a pack of wolves. A couple episodes back, Dare to Dream. This conversation with Wolf Costello.
Yeah.
Right?
Castillo.
And
Yeah.
Castillo. And just about like how you would like, everyone would be out socializing, but you'd feel that like, oh, I'm getting things done on Friday night. Like I'm, kind of have that, I'm better than you. I'm doing this. I'm not drinking. But what is it for? You have to ask yourself, like, and I mean, in different regards, like Jordan Peterson says it, like just how to relate to everyday people just as much as you want to relate to like intellectuals or the best of your ability. Like, me and you, we say all these things on this podcast, but this is like what we're striving at. This isn't, this is our perfect ideal self, or we're quoting philosophers and stuff. It's just the things we enjoy. And we try to enact them in the best of our ability, but we're not perfect people, obviously. And like the sentient savage of like, there's so much life that you're missing out on, I guess, if you're just trying to be this perfectionist and everything has to be so perfect. Like what I was saying before, just this the sloppiness to life too is part of the ride, it's part of the journey, and it's enjoyable. And Emerson says, one of his quotes, I like to have a man's knowledge comprehend more than just one class of topics, one row of shelves. I like a man who likes to see a fine barn as well as a good tragedy.
Wow.
Yes, I love that. Just being able to relate to people and not having this I'm better than you kind of mentality because I'm striving for perfection, but the humanity underneath us all is just this kind of everyday man who's striving to be a good person. He has its faults. She knows that she's not perfect and she's trying to be good, doing the best you can, and kind of just being playful with it. And yeah, man, it's just such it's a more enjoyable way to live when you know that you can just be one of the guys, one of the girls. You don't have to have this, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being able to do both is valuable. And it reminds me of something that you and I both love. And it's just that mindset of going through life as if each new experience in life is a arrow in your quiver and collecting arrows. Boom. There we
Oh,
go.
very.
That's for everyone who's just listening. Vinny just showed his tattoo, which is of that.
Boom.
And yeah, it's like life is a collection of experiences to have and to cherish and savor and to be able to connect with others on. Like, I love that a man should be able to appreciate a fine barn as well as a tragedy. Like, that's just the ultimate, that's the epitome of going through life and gathering arrows so that whoever you meet, whatever situation you're in, you are well equipped to connect and to make a difference.
And you could blend in, you could be one with the crowd, and you could, yeah, there is something to be said about being an everyday man can go along with, I mean, we have to think for yourself, but there is a sort of, there's a beauty to that, of this human nature that is underneath us all, and you can kind of tap into that. And then also being able to be a leader when you need to, and actually being an individual and sticking out for yourself. And, that kind of ties back to the whole doing what feels right, intrinsic, and not just going along with the crowd because you're just doing it for that reason.
Yeah. And we hope you've enjoyed these philosophical musings. I think
Yes.
the only thing, this shows up everywhere in every book I read, in every area of my life. The only universal truth I have found to be inarguable is balance, and like the middle way. It shows
Yeah.
up in Taoism and Stoicism and every other philosophy and religion I've learned of. It's like moderation, it's always not on one extreme or the other, like I like to live sometimes.
Yes.
It's in the middle.
It's almost like because this ties back, and this is kind of the theme of the episode of times of intensity and times of doing and times of being. And it's not like you have to go extremely one to the other, but just it's almost like pedaling, like, to go straight, you got to go left, right.
Exactly.
Well, analogy there. But yeah, letting yourself kind of fall between the two and allowing yourself to change and just continue to grow. And as they say, corn grows by jumps.
Wow, I like that.
That's Emerson.
And if I can just come on in with some Seneca,
Water's fine.
ask nature, she will tell you that she made both the day and the night.
Wow.
So you got to have day, you got to have night, you got to have rest, you got to have action, you got to have play, you got to have a good cry.
You got to. I think to tie it all together, what have we talked about here? We have the age-old Emerson Seneca standoff.
Yeah.
Have
Who would win in a fight?
Yeah. You ever see epic rap battles of history?
No.
Oh man, that'd be a great one. Um, we got times of doing and times of being. You have day and night, and keep you on the way up.
Yeah. And then we had, a lot of just introspection into all of my problems in the middle there, but we could just gloss over that.
Oh yeah, beautiful, buddy. I think that's gonna do it, eh?
I think that's going to do it. It is so good to be back live on the air with you, my friend.
Back in the
Man,
helm,
so good.
buddy. We love you all. This is the beginning of a beautiful chapter, and nothing but grateful, man. This is honestly just to have you, to have this platform just to ramble and hopefully inspire people. Like I loved also what he said with Wolf of to teach, and you have to be on the journey. You have to be a student, and
Yeah.
we're sharing the knowledge. It's just the things that we're learning, the things that we're enjoying, and it is making this life ever so sweet.
And I think what I'm implementing in my life is I'm going to owe you a daily allowance of things I'm learning.
Wow.
So look out for that. You're going to get a
Back.
nice little text.
I'm just gonna have that right into the junk.
Yeah, just spam folder me, set up a rule, everything that comes from Greg to the trash folder.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks
All
for
right.
tuning in, everybody. As always, we love you guys, and we will see you in the next one.
Yeah, and check out YouTube. Hopefully this will be on there. By the way, if you would like a free Kindle edition of Arrows of Youth, send me an email. You can go to my website, vincentvanpan.com, and go to contact and send me a message. I'll send it on over.
Yes, let's go. Let's start plugging.
Plugging and chugging.
You should get that free Kindle version of the book. It is quite good. I've read it. I read a couple pages. Didn't make it through the whole thing, but it's so good.
If you wanted a paperback, it's even better. But Kindle's good too. It's an audiobook if you want to hear this sweet voice. All right now.